Hey everyone, how are you all doing? Welcome back to another live stream. This one's going to be a little bit different. It's still going to be a training tutorial type of thing, but the topic for today is advanced JQL. And if you haven't already, back in July, I made like a basic getting started with JQL. Go watch that after this, but this is basically a part two. So we're not going to talk about the basic concepts, but we're going to be exploring some of the more advanced features of JQL. Now, I will be the first to admit I'm not an expert in JQL. This is probably one of the areas where I struggle the most. Most of the time, folks ask me, like, hey, how is this? Like, is this possible? How can I do something? Then I go and Google it and figure out the JQL, but I definitely don't have any JQL like locked in or memorized or just like something that I consistently do all day. So because of that, I kind of wanted to make this video to serve two purposes. One, to educate you and teach you advanced JQL concepts, but the second one is to kind of reinforce and maybe even explore myself what is possible with JQL and some of the cool, neat things that you can do. Keep in mind that Atlassian's always changing stuff. They're always adding features, and so the JQL functionality gets better over time. And towards the tail end, we're actually also going to explore a couple of plugins. So JQL or Jira in general is always augmented. It can become a lot more powerful when you got some cash and you start adding some plugins. So I'm going to look at some of the current like market leaders in this space in this domain because as a whole, even though JQL is kind of powerful, it's very weak, and just out of the box in general. And so we'll take a look at what options are out there and what's available and things of that nature. Okay. So, anyways, as usual, thank you for joining the live stream. I am going to be monitoring the chat as usual. So if you want to say hello, if you just want to give a thumbs up, if you just want to whatever questions you may have throughout this next hour or so. Let's just make it fun. Let's make it interactive. Feel free. I'm going to be reading things out. If I see something that I like or something that's worthy of being pinned, I think with my streaming software I can pin it here. So if you just want to say something and have everybody see it in perpetuity forever and ever, let me know in the comment section here, and we'll definitely comment or link it for everybody. So, anyways, with that said, we're gonna jump into Jira and then we're gonna start exploring. We're gonna basically start our learning process here. And like I mentioned, right, though I'm not an expert in this specific field or the specific domain area. So I'm gonna my thought process is I'm gonna go look at the documentation and then try it. So I'll kind of read through it, I'll read it out loud, and then we'll go see if we can replicate it in Jira just to kind of engrave it in our minds and hopefully help you out as well. All right, so looking at Jira here, one of the things that I do basically to just kind of level set how we're going to be doing this, most advanced JQL stuff is in the advanced mode. So the way I typically get here, there's two different ways to get to this specific screen. You can come to filters, and if you go all the way down to the bottom of your filters, you'll see an advanced issue search. You can click on that. So that's one way of getting here. And then the other way is you can go to search and then you can go to advanced issue search. And either way will get you to this exact same place. And I have a feeling, I'm not 100% sure, but I have a feeling that for, I don't know, 95% of what we're going to be looking at today, we're going to be in this like code editing kind of view. Now, Atlassian, if you're paying attention, what is up with this default created within the last 30 days that just gets added by default? This is a pain in the behind. Why would you add this in? Please get rid of it. It's not really cool. Reporting in. Thank you so much for your continued. Oh, hey, Alex Mednick. Um, thanks for. I thought I was getting in trouble here for a second. So, um, appreciate that you guys are appreciating the information, and I try to keep an eye out for the community, see what kind of questions are popping up, and see if I can make videos or specific just content to help the community out. So glad that that I'm able to add that little flair to that thing. And if there's any flair that I should be using, do please let me know. I just picked a tutorial one time many months ago, like towards the beginning of the year. A different mod was saying like, oh, well, they should add flares, but it wasn't really explicit which kind of flare I should add. So if there's a specific flare that I should be adding, please do let me know, and I'd be more than happy to add the right flare. All right, so let's kind of start looking here. So one of the first things that I started off with, the way I wanted to approach this thing here, is just looking at Atlassian's documentation. The basics of JQL, like I mentioned, those are pretty really easy. So I kind of wanted to see what else do we have out there. Um, what else can we do, and what's at your disposal? So I'm gonna kind of start with a bit of a premium thing. This is for advanced roadmap. So this next section here, if you're in the advanced roadmaps, if you're basically on Jira Premium, this is going to help you out a lot. We're going to look at these 4 different things: the parent link, child issues, the team field, and the target start and end. And so we're going to look at what options, what can we do with these 4 specific domains, and see how you can leverage. Let's teach you a couple of things and see how you can leverage this field. And then Alex, thank you so much. Appreciate tutorials correct. So I'm glad I'm just using the right one. I just don't again, I don't want to spam or anything, right? So I try to be very, very meticulous, make sure that whatever I'm adding here is providing value to that community. But yeah, so I appreciate that. There's some guidelines here so that I can stay within the safety and not get kicked out. So appreciate it. Appreciate the support there. All right, so let's talk about parent link. Now, the parent link is interesting. So Atlassian is going to be doing some changes. They've been promising these changes for a while, and if you're an advanced user, and specifically a premium user, and you're using the advanced roadmaps, the parent link is something that you should be using because you're paying for this feature. And so if you're not using it, you're really missing out on quite a bit. Last week's training was on advanced roadmaps where we covered this like parent thing. And then again, over the summer, a few months ago, I made like a beginner's advanced roadmap thing. So make sure you go watch those videos just to kind of get up to speed with what an advanced roadmap is. But now we're going to look at it from a JQL side. So the first thing that we're looking for here is a parent link. And one of the cool things here that you can do is that you can check and see like is not, not in, and empty is a big one. So let's see some of the examples here that we can do. So parent link equals EX001. And so what this basically tells me is I can actually just go and call out a parent link. So if I go over to Jira, I'm just going to delete all this other stuff. I can do parent link, come down and select it, and then equals, and then let's see if I type something in. Yeah, so if I start typing in letters, it's going to go and find my current issue types that are compatible. So if I go and hit search, it doesn't return anything. So let's actually go and find an issue that should have a parent link. So I'm gonna go basically look for an initiative and see if I have one. So here's an initiative T2-17. And so let's see what happens when we basically when we actually go and add into the search you know what, it's not gonna let me go that way. Let's see what happens when we add the parent link equals T2-17. So parent link equals T2-17. So if I do that, hit enter, that does bring something. And so what you're seeing here is what this is going to do. It's going to show you all the epics underneath this initiative. And so some of the things that you can do with this is if you save this specific project or the specific filter here or the search here, then we can make dashboards that can pull metadata from the epics. For example, we can see the distribution of the statuses of the epics. We can see the assignees of the epics. We can see the due date of the epics. So there's a bunch of little extra like metadata stuff that you can do once you have the search completed. So even though this is a super, super simple, basic, here's an initiative, show me the epics below it, we can drive a lot of insight with this specific query. That's kind of that there. Now, if you wanted to get from multiple parent links, so let's just say that we wanted to do a variety of initiatives, we can do the in. Now, if you've never done this, this is actually really interesting. I recommend that you get good at this because just retrieving one value is great. But what's even better is when you do the in, and now you have the ability to go hunting for a couple more items. So I can do T2 dash, oh boy, I'm going to just open up another tab here because I actually don't have my issue types or my issues memorized. So I'm just gonna, on another screen, I'm gonna be pulling in a couple of initiatives that I have, just to kind of make this a little bit more interactive. So I have T2-18. And if you're kind of wondering what the heck is this T2 stuff, my project name is called T2, or the key is called T2. So it's going T2 dash. It's probably not the best example. But as you can see, I'm basically going to do 2 initiatives now. I'm going to do a search, and now it's going to bring back a couple more epics. Yet again, similar things from the last example is now that I have these epics, I can basically do a dashboard that's showing me by assignee the breakdown, by report of the breakdown, by priority the breakdown, by status, the resolve ones, the due dates, time spent, story points, risks, I scores, t-shirt size, whatever you're putting on your epics that you find valuable, you can then go and basically and build these insightful metrics. But definitely, if you haven't used the in parameter, or what do they call it, operator, it's an operator. Yeah. If you haven't used the in operator, it's really, really powerful. I recommend you get comfortable with it, because almost as effective or just as cool is the not in. And so you can basically do the delta, the opposite search. And so instead of finding everything that was in those, now it's going to go and find me everything that's not in those uh, initiatives. And so now you can get pretty much like the opposite logic. And so these get really, really powerful when you're starting to do the in, not in. There's the is not. And so these are really, really interesting, really, really powerful. And so the next example we're going to look at is the is. So we're going to look at is empty. So basically what we're going to do now is we're going to bring back any an issue that whose parent link is empty. Now this right here is not going to be very beneficial, because it's going to bring back a ton of stuff. And so we can limit it. We can limit the scope to like, and project equals a specific project. So in this one, I'm just going to go with my Thanksgiving one. If I go here and I hit search, instead of 129 items, now it's just going to bring items whose parent link is empty. And what you're seeing here, what this returned is my initiatives, the 2 initiatives that we've been exampling, because my specific hierarchy, I do have an issue type above the initiative. And so what this is basically telling me is that these 2 initiatives don't have a parent filled out. And that just means that I'm not taking full advantage of my full hierarchy. I might have an example later where I do have like a theme that goes above my initiative, and this query would return nothing, right? Now I could also do the opposite, where I can do parent link is not empty, and then in this case it would return back a bunch of stuff where the parent link is not empty. So all of these have some sort of a parent link built out. Now, again, I just wanted to stress Atlassian is changing this. They have some very vague, in my opinion, not very helpful documentation about how parents and children are going to be behaving in the future. So I may have to do an update video probably early 2023, keeping my fingers crossed, because they've been promising this update since like summer. And so if and when that happens, I'm sure you're all subscribed. I'm sure you're all like very involved in the channel here. So we'll let you know when all those things happen here. So anyways, that's it for the parent link. And so again, if you're using the parent link, highly recommend you check these out. These are kind of cool. And you can see how you can, there's examples here for you to essentially play around with it. So now we're going to go look at child issues. So this one I kind of talked about last time. My mind was blown away when I learned this trick here. I don't think Atlassian had this documentation at the time, but this portfolio child's issue is really, really important. If you remember from my last example, the one we just did the parent link, it just brought back the epics. It didn't bring back the rest of the tree. But when you do portfolio child of, and I'll just show you here, and then I call out. Now this part is very key. If you remember from my last training, it's very, very key that this is case sensitive. So you need to exactly the way that the ticket is, you need to put it in like that. So if we do this, apparently don't put quotes inside. Apparently I don't know how to write the code here. Portfolio child. Oh, you know what? This doesn't work. I got to look at the rest of you want this. You want the issue key in. You want the issue key in. The rest of this code will help us make this function here. And so when we do this and we do put the quotes back in, because I was right, I needed them in there, what this is going to do is it's going to go and grab the tree structure. And so a better way to basically illustrate this is if I open up my plan, I'm just going to see, hopefully, I just have so many different plans here. But if I open up a plan and I look up my T2, this was definitely not the right one. Do I have maybe a live stream one? I'm trying to find one where I have, there we go. See how I have T2-17? This is the exact same initiative that I put here in my search. So these two match up. But what this query is returning, what the JQL is returning is, it's not just returning the T2-17, but it's going to bring me the epics, T2-2 and T2-1. So if I go over here and I sort by type, you're going to see the epics. So there's T2 and T2, 1 and 2. And then for each one of those epics, it's going to bring back the stories. And so it should bring back 9, 6, 19, and 20, which if we come over here, we'll see 9, 6, 19, and 20. And then it drills down. So if any of those stories have any subtasks, we'll also bring back 14, 15, and 16. So as you can see over here, as I scroll down, we have 14, 15, and 16. So this is powerful. This I really, really like, because if you set up your environments in such a way that it's in following this tree structure where you have this like high level initiatives or milestones or something macro that you're trying to track, everything downstream, everything that's associated back to it, you just write one query. And once you have this query, since it goes and grabs all of those children's following the entire tree structure, then you can build some very powerful metrics and reporting, because then you can see the distribution of like the issue types, the assignees, the statuses, the due dates, the sprints, the priorities, story points. You can sum values up. So it gets really, really advanced once you get to basically like once you build these queries out. So I know sometimes people don't like building them out. They want something a little bit more dynamic, but it's really not that like companies shouldn't have too many initiatives, because initiatives are really, really long living. So most teams should really only have like maybe a handful of initiatives anyways. So I think it's worth the effort, the upfront effort to go and create a saved filter for each one of these initiatives, just so that you can see that entire trickle down like breakdown, and then build those dashboards. Because the insight, the amount of metadata that you're going to get on this project and how it's trending, and where your roadblocks are and where the hiccups are, it's invaluable. Like there is no monetary value here to explain how powerful these features are. So in the chat, if you're using this stuff, let me know. Yeah. So Alex here saying in portfolio child issues incredible. It's glorious for swimlane queries. Yep. So it's really, really powerful stuff. I remember the first time I was actually on a phone call with Atlassian. Tyler, he's one of the Atlassian, what do they call him? Just like account reps here that kind of work with you. And he taught this to me, and I was like, wow. So really, really cool. Now, if you want to fine tune it, so there's some examples here, right? So if you want to just like bring back only the story level, so you can go this way and just bring issue type of story. So it's only going to bring you back the stories. If you want to skip an issue type, so maybe you don't want to bring the epics, you can skip to basically tell it, don't include the epics, and that's going to kick everything else out, or the epics out. So kind of cool stuff here. Now let's go down to team. Team I like. Now, the team field is a powerful field in Jira, but it's a very quirky field. It doesn't behave the way you would think it does. I don't know why Atlassian made this field so interesting, but what I have found, most of the teams that I work with, they use it. And if you've never used a team field, let me just take a quick like 2-second timeout here. But if you go to your plans and you go to view share teams, this is the team that we're going to be referencing in this section of this tutorial here. If you go to people and you look at these teams over here, no, don't touch this. This is not the same thing. The specific team that we're looking at is, again, under plans, under view share teams, it's going to be these teams here. Now you give these English names, so you'll have, or whatever native language you speak, but you're going to give these names like an actual name. But what's really interesting, and if you didn't see it in the documentation here, the team gets converted to a numerical value. And this is where teams get tripped up because when you do your search down here, we tend to reference the name, which is fine that Jira will find the team based on the name, but then it converts it to a number, and that's kind of where folks tend to get a little bit more confused. But worry not, this is just kind of like a little Jira-ism. But as long as you understand that these are the right teams, this is what you want to do. The other thing, if you are going to use this, one of the main things that you want to ensure is that your issue has the team field brought in. So as you can see, this particular project, I don't have the team field. So if I want to actually leverage this team field, it's technically a custom field. So I got to come over. I do need to be a site admin. I got to come to issues, come to custom fields, but team is already built in. You'll see that it's locked. And there's some pros and some cons. Team is a powerful field in that it has that area in the plans that allows you to basically add teams. So it's very dynamic because you don't need admin level rights to add a team, but the search gets a little bit more wonky. It doesn't behave the same way like a drop down value would, even though this team kind of looks and feels like a drop down. So if you see here, I actually mostly always recommend folks to create a different team field, but don't call it team because you don't want to have the same name. So I typically recommend that like they'll do like an assigned team or a technical team. And then here under their context, this is where they then define like team A, B, and C. Now the bad side or the con to this is that you do need to update this being a site admin, right? So you just can't add new teams on demand. You have to talk to your site admin, they'll add the team. But if you're okay with that, I personally recommend you go down this route. But if you are like, oh, no, I want to just use the team field over here, then the only other thing you want to make sure is that for the screens for your project that you actually bring the team field in. Because if you don't, then you won't be able to leverage it. So I'm going to just bring it into my T2 project that we've been using. So I'm going to click update here. And now when I go to my projects and I open up my Thanksgiving 2, I open up that same T2 story. Now on the right hand side, I have my team. Now, if you don't like your fields being down here at the bottom, because these are typically collapsed, so you can't see it. So if you want to be able to see it, make sure you come over here to click configure. This is going to open up your the layout. Come down to the bottom, find that team field, and just drag it on up over this. You see this hide when empty? Bring it on over that line, and then stick it wherever you want. Make sure you hit save changes. And now when I go back to my project and I open up that T2-6, my team is now in a more prominent, better placed area. So now this team field will work off of, if my mouse worked, hold up, my mouse not playing with it today. Come on. Don't take free stuff from your little cousins. There we go. So here's the field. So if you remember when I went to the plans and view share team, these are the options that are there. So only from this option will it work. And so I think these little icons what breaks things between this icon and that icon. It kind of breaks things. It makes things a little bit wonky, but this is the team field. So assuming we have a team field like this, now we can come over to our documentation over here, and now we can go find team. So we can go find team in whatever, and so it's going to get a list of issues that are assigned to a specific team. So what you can do on your search, when we go to our advanced search, is we can do our team, team equals, and then I can do cloud. And I tend to just write a couple letters and then come on. Okay, what I first do is I write team, and then I always scroll down and select their option that they did, because I find, as I try to do it right now, that it's sometimes bugging. It doesn't give you back what you're expecting. So if you type a couple letters and then actually physically click or select the options that it brings back, I tend to yield better results. And so you saw that I clicked on cloud team, but it converted it instantaneously to a number. And so when I hit search, it should go and find any issues that belong to that specific team. And so this is basically those issues that belong to that team. Now you'll notice that the subtasks, I never filled in that team for the subtask, but the team is one of those weird fields that even though it's not explicitly stated, it will inherit. So I think that's kind of a cool feature. But yeah, it's gonna basically inherit the value from its parent, and so it'll bring them in anyways. Um, the really useful thing that I tend to see that is beneficial with the team field is if you want to create a board per team. So let's just say that everybody shares a Jira project, but you want your teams to each have their own independent backlog and their own independent board. Then you can create a board where the filter query equals team equals whatever the team name is. And now you make team a required field. And so whenever anybody creates an issue, they're forced to call out which team is going to be working on that issue, and it'll show up on the right board. And I like this method. I like this approach a lot because you're the the probability, well, let me rephrase this. I like this method a lot because the team field can only have one value in it, which means that any issue can only be in one and only one sprint. If you've ever had an issue be in two sprints at the same time, you've probably have experienced this phenomenon where when you close one sprint and that issue lives in two sprints, the other sprint is prematurely closed. And so by doing this method, you can safely have multiple boards assigned to multiple teams without risking that one sprint's going to close a different sprint, because it's impossible due to the nature of that team field only accepting one and only one value. It's kind of impossible to make that issue show up in two sprints. And so I like setting it up that way. Very popular configuration that a lot of teams that I know like to use. Anyways, we'll look at some of the other examples here. So you can call out like the specific project and then find out if any of the issues are empty. So if I just wanted to see like basically team, see, here I go again where it's better to select it as empty, and I'll just hit enter. This is going to go back and bring every story, task, issue, whatever I got going on in here, that's the team is empty. Now I can do the same thing, not empty, and it's basically going to go and grab every issue that actually has a value for team. And so again, you can get kind of creative with what you want to do here, and figure out like, well, what's the best way to get some insight to help drive you and your team. All right, so the last one is target start and target end. I never really done much any here. These are custom fields to the roadmap. I don't typically use them. Most of my teams use start date and due date, but just know that these are going to behave just the same way. These are just fields that are very specific. They're custom fields, but they're baked in when you have Jira Advanced Roadmaps. And so you'll basically be able to like find every issue whose target start date is after a specific date. Find all the issues that started before now. Find all the issues that are going to end like earlier than 5 days ago. So these are just some of the different ways to manipulate date fields. Now this I think is a bit of a more of an advanced feature. Now what I will show you is this stuff is kind of hard to remember, especially with dates. And so for this particular example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually switch back to basic, because when you bring in like a field like the due date, I hate this damn query Atlassian. We need to have a talk. Due date. So due date is a very common one, right? And so when I pull up the due date, you can see that I'm given options that are very much more drag and drop. I think, in my professional and personal opinion, like this is easy, right? Like I want to find every due date or every ticket that's due within the next 5 days, right? And if I do that, it's going to go and find issues that are due within the next 5 days, or that were due within the next 5 days. This to me is easier than like doing this mathematics over here. So that's just my personal preference. It's just kind of the way I like to do it. I don't know. I just like that this is like Like it's super easy, super intuitive. Like I can do just toggle a couple things, and like it changes the results, right? So I can give me every issue that was like created or that is due between like September 4th and like today. So I can just do this, and it'll just go and bring back specific issues that whose due date here meet that specific criteria. So it's such a relief to see someone else change back to the basic view when working with the date field. Yeah. Um s- sometimes like sometimes just because you're a pro doesn't mean you got to make life hard for yourself. There is some advantage to making life a little bit easier. I just love that intuitiveness. It speaks so easily for me, right? It's like it's so intuitive that I kind of know what I want, and the queries is written in such a way that it's just super simple for me to follow. So yeah, the syntax, like the -5D, -5W, like am I going backwards in time or forward into, like it's just so confusing. But being able to just say, hey, due date, right, in this range or in between these dates, like that's just way easier. And then just the overdue. This is like most people, they just care like, hey, give me every overdue issue. And you can do like do is greater than, less than, greater than, equal to, and then now, or you can just click that little radio button. And what in the world is this? I'm not able to sort using fix. Okay, so why? Here we go. Let's delete this part. So yeah, this is like you could do this, or in this basic one, you just select the radio button. So I don't know, my personal preference, but I really like making my life a little bit easier. So, anyways, that's it for the advanced roadmaps. That took a whole 30 minutes. But let's keep going. Let's keep looking at different other like advanced JQL stuff. And then I do want to reserve the last 15 minutes to just kind of talk about plugins. Now keep in mind that when I do get into the plugins, I'm not sponsored by any of them. So I'm just gonna give you my raw just 2 cents on like my last 6 years of using Jira and like my opinions and stuff like that. Oh, and by the way, since we're here, November 1st, today marks the official 6 year anniversary of the first time that I ever used Jira. So I'm little yay. It's one of those cool things where like I can remember very distinctly because I started a new job on Halloween of 2016. The next day I went to my actual like assigned job, and Jira was the thing that got assigned to me. So very instilled in my memory. But thought I would just throw it out there that today's my 6 year anniversary. All right, so let's see. By the way, these links, I'll make sure to put all those links at some point in the description of this video so that if you're curious like what the documentation is, like you can go and look it up yourself. But we're gonna spend just the next 15 minutes kind of powering through some of these. I just want to show you what Atlassian has from a documentation perspective, so that because I can't cover everything in these videos, but Atlassian's documentation is kind of thorough. So let's just kind of look at this stuff. So this stuff here, not very mind blowing. This is just assignee equals current user. So these are just like little things that you can do to kind of make your life ever so slightly better or easier to use. Um, like you can bring this assignee equals current user, and all this is telling you is like this will bring back every issue that has the assignee, right? But the purpose of this article here, this optimization recommendation, is it's not just like, hey, here's how you do JQL, but it's like, hey, here's how you do JQL, but learning how to like fine tune the levers so that you bring data that's more valuable, because there's so many tickets in Jira, so many issues in Jira that sometimes it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. So the purpose of this article is to kind of help you see how you can minimize that haystack so that you can at least narrow that haystack so you're not looking in a smaller area. Right. So instead of doing like assignee equals current user, which is going to bring back everything that's assigned to you, you can scope it down. It's like, show me everything in this specific project. And I can show you it's like a huge difference, right? So if I come over here and I go assignee equals current user, you'll see that I have 200 issues. Now, in my defense, this is probably not a good example because I'm the only person in this project. So, of course, everything's almost always going to be assigned to me. But if I were to limit it to just like the Thanksgiving 2 one, instead of 200 items, now I'm just bringing 5. So now finding that needle becomes a whole lot easier. So that's kind of the intent here. Over here, we're gonna come down to ors and ands. These right here are probably the most confusing thing in the world. I'm a computer programmer, and these trip me up every single time. So let's read through this and see if we can make sense of it. So, due to the way that Jira interprets queries, a seemingly logical string might be broken down to several redundant searches that can take longer to execute. A common cause of redundant searches is using the and in main clauses. We recommend that and mostly be used in subclass clauses, and that or is reserved for the main clause. All right. Or in a more plain words, we recommend that your or clauses live outside the brackets and that your and okay. So let's look at an example here. So they're saying that this query works where your project equals TIS or the assignee equals A, and then we're anding what project equals PMO or assignee equals B. So this will work, but they're saying that it's better to do the project is in one of these two or the assignee is A or B. Why? Because when JQL contains an AND clause, Jira software only returns issues that match both. This is key. The and both conditions must be met. And so not neither or. I want to interpret the first query as in project. Okay, so yeah. So you can see this little picture that um, using the and can be problematic. So you and it's only problematic if you don't understand how and or causes work, right? So this is just regular logic. And so I'll try to explain it because I always get tripped up with these. But long story short is when you put an and, the condition on the left and the condition on the right have to equal true to whatever you're searching. Because if they don't, if it doesn't match, it won't return it. So if you're looking for the project equals X and the user equals this, it's only going to bring you back somewhere where the user equals this and that project equals that. If it doesn't meet the qualifications, right? So if the assignee meets, so we bring back all the issues that belong to a specific assignee, but the project isn't, those issues aren't in that specific project, you won't get a query returned. Now, if you did or, that means only one or the other needs to be true. So, but sometimes that's not what you want either, because sometimes you want a limited, finite return. And so you want to be very careful. You want to play around with your combination of your ands and your ors, because this, I think, is one of the more trickier things to kind of master. All right, so coming down, there's nothing else out here. So let's go to the next article where we're going to be talking about advanced searches here. And so let's see what else they got over here. So we got autocomplete, switching between the advanced and simple search. So nothing special over here. So we're going to just basically leave this alone. Let me see if there's any examples here that would be good to look at. These are just kind of basic stuff, nothing too advanced. And so I'm not going to bother with these here. Let's look at the or. Nothing on the or. Nothing on the not. The empties. No. Okay, so we're going to skip this one too. This is a cheat sheet. This one's kind of cool. I wanted to spend a second here. Atlassian actually puts this little cheat sheet. So if you're struggling, if you're kind of new to JQL and you're like, hey, man, like how does this stuff work? Like, this is super interesting. One, go watch the basic training that we did back in July. But two, go and grab this. I'll make sure to include this. But if you just look up the JQL cheat sheet on just like Google, you should be brought to this one. So I really like this. This is a cool like infographic. I wish there was a lot more of this. I'm actually gonna try to steal this for inspiration for other things. But infographics is one of the main things that I want to get into. But I'm definitely downloading this because I definitely want to create things like this with respect to like projects and fixed versions and things of that nature, so you can kind of understand what's available. But this cheat sheet here will basically explain to you like the basics of how to construct a JQL statement. So it tells you what the field is, the operators, and then the values. And so you can come over here and you can see the fields. Pretty much any field. And this is the beauty of it. And this is what I tell people. Like, hey, if you're wanting to capture something in Jira, just put it in a field. Because once that issue exists in a field, it becomes very trivial to extract data from it. So make sure you got everything in a field, because you don't have to. What you're seeing here, these are very, very rudimentary, basic built-in fields. but this is going to apply to custom fields as well. And so if you want to find custom things, then just make sure they're in a field. Because once they're in the field, then you can do all kinds of logic on it. And so then you have your operators down here, which basically allow you to search for things that is not, was not in, right? So lots of powerful stuff here. And then you get some functions. So these are like start of day, week, month, or year. And I think it's worth spending a couple seconds into this because these here are actually really, really powerful, especially open sprints. Let's go take an example, like look at an example of open sprints because I really, really like this one. Um, a lot of teams are usually trying to find queries with respect to a specific sprint. And so you can actually go to the sprint field, and I know that I'm in basic mode here, and I can see future and active sprints. Okay. And I can click on this, and it's basically going to go and find a sprint. Now, what's really, really cool is, and I don't know if you knew this, but if you actually select the sprint and then you switch to JQL, you're going to get the sprint ID because to do the queries in for sprints, very similar to that team field, it actually works off of this numerical value. And so sometimes knowing that numerical value can be really, really hard to find. I think the official way to find this is you have to like click on the issue. Let me get down to an actual story that isn't a sprint. So if you get to the story, you can hover over the sprint and down at the bottom, very tiny text, you'll see sprint ID equals 60. That's like the other way to get that data. And so if you didn't know that, then hopefully you learned two things today, right? That you can essentially put using the basic. And Alex, this is another pro tip or pro I don't know, in favor of being in basic mode, that you can essentially do a drop down and then switch to JQL, and then you get that value. Now, what you don't get in that drop down or in basic mode is you can do like sprint is empty, right? So those things you can just bring back every issue that's in a project whose sprint field is empty. So these are in your backlog because they've never been planned before. You can also do sprint in, and then this is where you can do the close sprints, feature sprint, or open sprint. So if you wanted to see all the issues that are in your current sprint in this project, I can do this and I can click search, and it's going to go and bring me back any issue that is currently in the active sprint. And so if I actually go over to my T2 project, I should have basically my current sprint, which is T2-6, because this is the only thing that's open, that's not resolved, that's in progress. And so as you can see, this brings back the same thing. Now, if I remove this part, which I think this is what's throwing things out, this should bring back the extra items that were not assigned to me. So you can see this open sprint, feature sprint, close sprint is a functionality that you can only do it here. Have we gone over the OR syntax? So I kind of mentioned it, Perry. I didn't like give you a specific example, but let me just show it to you here, right? So this and basically means that anything that gets returned here is going to meet both criteria. It's going to meet that the project equals T2, so that means the key is going to be T2, and the sprint value is going to be that of the current active sprint, in which case we have T2 sprint 2, right? If I change this to an OR, then, whoopsie. So if I change it to an OR, what this does is only one of the two conditions needs to be true or both, but it's going to bring back everything. So I would expect that when I click the search button here, it's going to bring these 6 still, but then it's going to bring back everything in project T2. So let's go see what that does. And so as you can see, now I have 67 items because it brought back every issue in T2, and technically it's an or everything that's in the active sprint. And now the problem here though is that this gets harder to read. You don't know what's what. You don't know which came from the right side of the syntax or the left side of the syntax. So my recommendation is to kind of fine tune what you're looking for and try to avoid the ors and ands and stuff like that, unless you really know explicitly what you're trying to like find. Otherwise, it won't really work too well, right? So that's kind of the or, right? So you can see that the result is drastically different. All right, so that's kind of so if you haven't checked this one out, I definitely recommend you check it out because this little lifesaver, like this is something that I would have like pinned up in my desk because it teaches you like reserved words. It teaches you some term modifiers so you can replace a single character with a question mark. See, I didn't even know we can. I did not know that it had this, right? So I did not know that you had question marks or you can replace a character with a question mark. I didn't know that you can. I this is common. So this win star, and let me see. Let me make this a little bit bigger for those on mobile, right? So this asterisk here, this wild card. This is a pretty popular one. It's if you've ever coded anything, this will bring you back anything that starts with the three letters WIN. And so where would you use this? Why would you use this, right? And so you can kind of see down here under text, right? So if I just wanted to bring back some text equals win star. Uh-oh. Did it not like it? Oh, I need to put it in quotes. So I need to put this in quotes. So if I do that, not that. And maybe if I read, okay, the tilde. I need tilde. I should have known this. I've done this before. Okay. So now it's going to go find any issue who has WIN somewhere in there. So chicken wings, the WIN here. White wine, WIN. Red wine, wine, more wings, right? Now the if I do the question mark and I do wig like this should bring back anything that has WIN like this. Nope. Like this. It should bring back anything that has wings in it. So it's just like basically replacing this question mark with pretty much any permutations or any letter. Those are kind of cool. I didn't know that this was a thing. Add the tilde to the end of a search term like Rome to do a fuzzy search. So what is a fuzzy search? Let's look that up. I think I recently saw that Atlassian Jira fuzzy search. Let's see what that is. So I know that this recently came out, so it's more of a newer thing. Or I don't know if it's a newer thing, but I think they cleaned it up. And Atlassian sent out some documentation. So fuzzy searches at the end. Okay, so this doesn't tell me anything. This search will find terms like, okay, so that are like it. It's like Rome and foam. Okay, I don't know how much beneficial that would be, but I don't typically search for things like fuzzy search, but make sure I do know Atlassian did send some documentation out. And also, by the way, I know we're definitely running out of time here. So one thing that I should note is you guys should definitely check out Atlassian's release notes because every week they push out new things. And I definitely know that they're changing this up. Like they're changing searches that have it like saved. And so they send out some official documentation to like watch out for those things. So anyways, keep this handy. I really like this. This is really really powerful, cool stuff here. So make sure you have something like this like saved up, print it out because you just these cheat sheets are really really cool. All right, so that's pretty much it. I don't know. We'll have to save this stuff for another time, but we'll look at these JQL fields, JQL functions in the future. But what I want to spend these last 10 minutes on is looking at plugins. So the JQL is powerful but limited. We looked at a bunch of cool stuff, but it's still kind of limited. And so sometimes every once in a while you want to look up like things that are just like over the top complex. And just JQL by itself can't do it. So for example, look at this example here, right? So if you wanted to find an issue who's attached by a specific user, who commented after a specific date, like commented by a specific user, if you're looking for like somebody that commented on a specific date, right? Like these things, like if you wanted to see any issues that have attachments or that have components, none of this is possible in Jira. Like you just can't do it. So these kind of things, like if you wanted to find every issue that has some subtasks assigned to it, you can't do it. It's just not possible. Like there is no JQL that can do this. But with this kind of a plugin, now you open yourself up to a world of possibilities. So this one has over 50 useful functions. I'm wondering if we can see their official documentation to see what those 50 functions are, because I kind of like that. I know that some teams that I work with would definitely benefit from having these advanced functions. Just trying to see if there's like, see if there's anywhere that it tells me the actual, maybe the FAQ. I just wanted to see what those functions are, because that's a lot of functions. Usage maybe, kind of, yeah. So I don't know that we have 50, but I guess if they add permutations of it. But yeah, this is cool. I like this, right? Returns all epics that don't have any issues under it. Returns all epics that have 3 or more issues under it. Like these are some neat stuff. So if you're looking to expand the power of Jira, I highly recommend you check out plugins like this. Unfortunately, this plugin here, I really wish more companies did this, but usually it's super cheap. They'll either charge like $10 a year, or if you're a cooler company, if you're like really, really cool, we'll do something like AppFire. So AppFire has this, and you can see that when you have under 10 users, you're completely free, which is really enticing because now I can set it up and play around with it because I don't have to pay for it, and I'm a team of one. But these are the kind of cool stuff that I like to see. But here's another plugin that we're gonna look at here. And so again, another 50 powerful things where let's see if we can actually see some examples here. So search for issues by who updated, transition, or log time. I know that this is powerful. I work with a couple of teams where they wanted to know who transitioned. And so you can actually check and see who transitioned this particular issue. Last updated by, so you can see if a specific person updated something. So yeah, this is like cool stuff. Like you start getting into some dangerous like micromanagement territory. So you want to be careful. But like this stuff could be very powerful, and you can definitely take advantage of it. So definitely recommend you give this all a look. If you feel like if you gotten to the point where you're like, hey, I want to do some advanced searching, but just Jira can't do it, come and check out one of these plugins. Remember, all plugins in the marketplace, most of them, at least within the cloud, give you a 30-day trial. So come and check them out and see if you can get what you're looking for. Because like sometimes like just those basics of Jira just don't do it you enough. And so some of these agile ones might be a little bit more beneficial where you can find issues in the next sprint. You can find issues from a previous sprint. This is cool. So you can add it, you can find issues that were added to the sprint after the start. This is like finding people with their hands in the cookie jars kind of stuff. So these I would see a lot of Scrum Masters finding very beneficial. So look at, yeah, so there's a lot of stuff here. Notes on dates and stuff. So yeah, cool things here. So that's a cool plugin. And now to wrap things up, because I'm like losing my voice here. Script Runner. So if you aren't using Adaptivist Script Runner and like you want to be like the most powerful Jira guru in the world, you need to learn Script Runner. Like Script Runner takes things to a whole nother level. Now, Script Runner isn't cheap. It's actually pretty expensive. And so I'm actually going to go to like Script Runner up here. Oh, look, it's already here. It's like the number one like app on the marketplace. Oh, this is nice. So, oh, proceed. Okay, so okay, cool. Yeah, so first 10 users is free. So I might actually start relearning Script Runner. But Script Runner is probably one of the most like advanced, like it is like next level. It'll take your Jira to the next level. There's just so much to it. There's so much power in this one. Um, it is very like code based, but like there's so many features that don't require, and so definitely recommend, because like just the functionality of just the searches appears to just be one of the many things that you can do. But there's just so much built into this script runner thing that it just unlocks like next level kind of searches. Fortunately, again, like it said, it is pretty expensive. Like I was looking to see if I can get a price, but It's not showing me a price. Maybe over here under the question mark. I think I can do this. Yeah. So if you click here, if you put in like how many users you have, like let's just say like 250 users, you can see that it's $475. Like if you have 1,000 users, it's not bad. Like it's 85 cents. I thought it was actually more expensive, but yeah, this is not that bad. 85 cents a user for that many users is not too bad. But definitely go and check out Script Runner. If you like, I would start with some of the cheaper options, but if you're under 10 people like me, just go straight to Script Runner. I think in the long run, I'm definitely gonna invest a lot more time because you can do scripts, so you can do things to like automate Jira in ways that even Jira automation can't do it. And so there's so much more powerful stuff here. This is crazy. Like you almost need like a PhD here to figure out how to use Script Runner to like the most, like just to take full advantage of it. But definitely recommend you check out Script Runner. All right, that's gonna do it for this one. I'm gonna end it a couple minutes short here. I'm hearing some loud thumping coming from somewhere in the house, and I want to go check that out because I'm supposed to be home alone, and I'm not supposed to be hearing noises coming from the outside of my house. So hopefully nobody is here to hurt me. Anyways, thank you so much to everybody. If you haven't dropped a like yet, please make sure you drop a like. And if you're not subscribed, make sure you're subscribed. I'm trying to get to 3,000. I'm putting a pretty aggressive goal here, but the next 60 days, because we got 60 days left in the year, trying to get to 3,000 subscribers. I'm about 888 away, something like that. So make sure you're sharing this stuff with your coworkers, with your friends, your family, whoever is interested in Jira. Make sure you're spreading the love and appreciate you. Thank you so much for everybody. Alex and Perry, thank you so much for participating. I appreciate it. It just makes this it makes this thing better. I like coming and doing these live streams when I have that interaction. And so thank you, Perry. Thank you so much for participating. Alex, thank you for not banning me from the Reddit group. I promise, Scout's Honor here, no spam or any of that stuff, right? I try to just, if it's valuable, I'll put it on there. I'm not the kind of guy that just likes to like do the random like, hey, take my course or whatever, or give me money type of stuff, right? Like everything on there, all free just through YouTube. So thank you for I noticed that one of the posts was pinned, so thank you so much. Appreciate it. Really honored to not be kicked out. So I appreciate you all being here. So yeah, so thanks for pinning that post. Anyways, again, I'm gonna go check out that noise because I'm not supposed to be hearing noises. So hopefully this is beneficial. Hopefully y'all like this. Next week, let's see if you guys want to take a sneak peek at what's coming up next week. We're gonna go and see here. We are going to be doing sprint planning. Oh no, sorry, JSM. So if you never use Jira Service Management, I'm gonna do like a 1 hour deep dive into Jira Service Management. Also, I'm thinking of live streaming like a 6 to 8 hour like course, and I'm thinking of just doing it live because I want to record it to eventually sell it. But I'm thinking of just live streaming just the content portion of it because I've been sitting on this thing for 2.5 months now, and I just gotta hit record. But it's gonna take me so long to record. I was thinking of just doing a live stream, so I'll keep you all updated. Make sure you're following me on social media, on Twitter, LinkedIn, or Reddit, wherever you guys are at. Just kind of stay tuned. But I'm thinking of doing like a in-depth like 8 hour thing where we just go over like the basics of Jira. Obviously, most of you guys are here are pretty advanced, but there's such a huge component of the community that's just like just learning or seeing Jira for the first time that I think that they would benefit from that. But don't worry, we're gonna have some advanced things. Maybe I go deep on the Script Runner stuff and then I do my own Script Runner course in the future. So I don't know, stay tuned. But anyways, yeah, thank you very much. I keep hearing that noise, so I'm tripping out and I gotta go figure it out. Thank you all for the support. Appreciate you being here. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you drop a like, and if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, let me know in the comment section below. Thanks, and I'll see y'all next week. Bye.
I feel nauseous, believe me. Never had a lot of shit come easy. Had to work hard, struggle just to be me. Had to rise up just so they could see me. Did what I had to do just to feed me. And what was left over I put towards my dreaming. But the only thing in life that has meaning are the things you gotta work for, believe me. Take into your hands a plan. Your own hands can land your own brand. And damn, I feel like no one takes accountability. They want the credibility, convincingly unwilling to put in the hours it takes to get some power. Don't be f***ing sour, take a cold shower. Scream until you're louder, work until you're prouder. And f*** all the doubters, they're just your downers. I swear to God they all let me down. I always fought just to wear the crown. I'm f***ed off at these f***ing clowns who were all taught they deserve it now.